Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to replay. Always appreciate you for tuning in live or listening to replay. We have a bunch of listeners, listen all over the place. You all know where you're at, what state, what city, what country. And we always appreciate everybody for tuning in live. This is the Vault episode 217. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. This is going to be episode 217. Nick Canon and Migos. Contract makes the law. Ladies and gentlemen, we do our best to share stories sometimes. Traditionally, you see these stories in the private when you come into trustee training. We talk about different marriages, people that have contracts in place, such as prenuptials. We talk about trust that people either have already together or that are created after marriages are created. And we always talk about these things in the private specifically, not just in the private, but we also talk about these things as well on the vault. So we're going to get into it today. Episode 217, Nick Cannon and Migos, contract makes the law. We got some people in the chat already shouting us out from Mississippi. Appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay over in Mississippi. I always have people that we had come through trustee training from Mississippi, so appreciate Mississippi as a state, great area for people to thrive and survive in. So they're gonna go ahead and talk about this episode, Nick Cannon and Migos and contract makes the law, because this is just a classic example of not reading the contract before you signing it, not feeling like you have any negotiation power in the contract before you sign it. We have a ton of people that want to talk about copyright infringement. We are still going to do episode 216. You all will be able to go back and listen to episode 216. I copyrighted my name, now what? But let's just go ahead and talk about how individuals enter into these contracts. Then, after the relationship is over with these businesses or these people, people are in a position now where they're saying that they were in a bad contract from the beginning. And this is sad because a lot of times this is coming from people that didn't want to hire great help. When we say great, we're talking great, we're talking excellent, we're talking Johnny Cochran firm status. These are people that you have to get the best lawyers on the front end. So many people say, well, what about a good lawyer? Can I get a good lawyer to read over my contract? Ladies and gentlemen, if a good lawyer is going to represent you, they know that they're going to make money before they ever accept the contract, ladies and gentlemen. But when you get your free hour consultation or your free consultation, they'll let you know. So this is the encouragement for all the individuals that listen to the vault that say, well, I'm getting ready to start a business. How do I get a good lawyer to listen or read over my contract? You let them read over the contract. It says, is this something worth your time defending me if I go into litigation for? Because as we can see, not only did we see an individual get fired or a contract terminated, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not aware, see, these are the things when you don't know contract that you don't do. When you're in a contract negotiation or a contract in general, you can put breaking the contract clause. See, when you walk away with a balloon payment or a severance package, you're not upset. But people get sour feelings when they're not in a position of control with a contract. And so they bounce back and say, well, you took my entire name from me. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard this from artists years throughout the years, whether it's from Prince, whether it was from any celebrity that says, we took a bad deal. Now, this is just a classic example of all money's not good money. We would like to think all money is good money in business. We would like to think that as investors. But how can that be so when these individuals, particularly these Nick Cannon and the Migos, these will be considered multimillionaires on the public side? We've seen this with a classic example of artists such as TLC, where they come on stage at an award show and they say, we're not seeing any royalties. We're not seeing any money. We barely own our name. So, why don't you own your name? Why would you give up rights to your name? You didn't think the contract would ever be broken? Did you ever think you were going to outgrow a contract? Well, once you enter in the contract, contract makes the law. So, Even if you thought you were going to weasel out of the black and white, which is the paper, which is the contract, you're not, because the contract makes the law. So when these parties go into what would be considered private litigation or private mediation, what's in the contract, ladies and gentlemen? The contract states that you signed, or the party signed, they signed away the name to the TV show, Wildin' Out. You did that. So when you want to accept responsibility that you signed away the name, that you signed away the royalties, that you signed away these things, oh man, the contract was 50 pages. It was 100 pages long. And, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about one of the greats in the public for contract makes the law, Floyd Mayweather himself. Mr. Floyd Mayweather. People have condemned, have criticized this individual, but for some odd reason, he doesn't complain about contracts. Why? Because he's in a position of power. He has good lawyers, he has good accountants to read over the contract before he enters it. So he's not signing it, he's not signing his name away. He's not signing his life away. He does partnerships. He does 50-50 deals. He doesn't do deals where he loses majority share in contracts. That's how business is done, where contract makes the law. So let's continue talking about contract makes the law. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about you entering into a contract that you're not aware of everything. So let's just say you're an artist. Let's just say you're anybody. This is for all the Moors that contact the vote and say, we entered into what's considered a unconscionable contract. You entered into a contract that you weren't fully aware of the details? Is that what Nick's saying? Is that what the Migos are saying? We didn't know we gave up certain type of rights in the contract. You didn't know that. Okay, so you signed a contract that you weren't fully aware of the details. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? If somebody has a clause in the contract that if you break the contract early, that they can still get a package or a settlement, it's the same exact thing when you enter into a contract. You're signing a disclosure agreement that says that you're fully aware of the full details of the contract. Are you not? But we see what happens is people get emotional in business, and this is why contract is best to have in place. That's why it's best to not do handshake deals anymore. A lot of people don't believe in handshake deals anymore. Why? Because people don't believe that contract makes the law. Well, contracts are enforceable, and when you go up against these parties, such as a Viacom, such as even your so-called managers, the label, the managers at the label, and you're an artist, they gave you disclosure. Why? First of all, they're the suit. They're the ones negotiating contracts on behalf of the artist. Sometimes not always, but sometimes they are. They have a place, and their job is to collect money too. Their job is not to be at the begging whim of an artist, of a content creator. So when you have people like a classic example of a Dame Dash and a Rockefeller, they did a 50-50 deal. This is public record. They never owned Rockefeller. Rockefeller was never owned by any other than its founding members. They didn't sell off their name. They did a distribution deal. Dame talks about this in the public. It was a distribution deal. And what did Dame take? He took his severance pay. He took his bow out. Peacefully and financially. So why are these parties right now having issues in their contract? Because they didn't really fully read the contract. And they didn't hire the best help to negotiate their contract. Now, ladies and gentlemen, whether you all notice or not, this doesn't look good for Viacom or the label of QC or the disputes with the label in general with these parties. It doesn't look bad on their part. What it looks bad is on the part of the content creator. Why? Because you didn't know that you signed away your rights to different derivatives of your product, whether it's the name, whether it's the royalties, whether it's the publishing, whether it's the production, whatever position is signed over in the contract. That's the case. Ladies and gentlemen, there are parties that can maintain their privacy in these contracts. That's the same thing as contract makes the law. You know how to contract privately. Read the contract very clearly. But what happens? People sign these contracts that they say, oh, somebody ripped me off. What happened when you were making all the money? Did you get ripped off then? So guess what it looks like to us on the private side? We look like your easy prey. So as soon as you get cut off from that well of finance, the next predator comes in. And they actually are going to do a major number on you. Because we already saw that the first one did a number on you. That's how easy it is to take away more and more rights from people in a contract. Why? Because they don't know their rights. They didn't get proper lawyers and representation. Some people say, well, how do I get good lawyers without paying them big bucks on the front end? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll give you an old secret. A lawyer is not going to take on a case that they're not going to get paid in. They're not going to take on a client they're not going to get paid in unless they're doing pro bono work. So you have ample opportunity to go interview great lawyers, great accountants, but specifically great contract lawyers. We had someone contact us the other day and say, well, can you put me in contact with a financial lawyer? What's the such thing as a financial lawyer? It's a contract lawyer. It's a business contract lawyer. It's a business litigation lawyer. These are lawyers that when the time comes and when someone's trying to feast on your estate, you're right there to play ball. You're in protected position because you have proper representation. How many of these people are sitting in contracts or sitting in negotiations where Viacom, QC, other companies, they have 3-to-1 lawyers. For every one lawyer you have, they have 3 lawyers sitting in the room, reading over the contract, coming up with creative financing ways to have access and rights to derivatives. Ladies and gentlemen, you can go do the same exact thing. A lawyer will not take on a case that they cannot protect their client. Contract makes the law, ladies and gentlemen. This is a really simple example. You can protect your image. You can protect your name. Why wouldn't you just go get a UCC, put on the name of Wild 'N Out, and then allow them to take whatever rights, but you always have first priority rights? Why would you sell the rights to your name? Ladies and gentlemen, we know why they sold rights to their name. Because they didn't even read the contract. Oh, you found out on the back end that you didn't have rights to the name? Or you knew already that you didn't have rights to the name and you signed it away? And now, because you didn't get the payoff that you thought you were going to get, you want to make public defaming statements about the other parties, knowing good and well that you weren't in business with them for one day. You didn't have the contractual period to say we're going to rescind the contract in 7 to 10 business days or 30 days. They accepted these contracts for years. They acquiesced to the rights to sign over their names for years. And they did. Willingly or unwillingly. But they did willingly. Why? Because did they sign their names with restricted signatures? Did they say they reserve all rights and contracts to what? Say that, hey, look, if there's any slight unconscionable stuff in here, I'm not down with it. I'm not cool with it. Which is what? Signing away majority share to the company. Majority share to the name. That's what just happened. This is a classic example of contract makes the law. After people have gotten offended, feelings have been hurt, emotions, the contract stated you signed your life away. You signed your rights away. We got a classic example of when Dave Chappelle got hit with that contract, the comedy one. And what did he do? You think Dave Chappelle didn't have good lawyers? Everybody thought, oh, Dave Chappelle was a fool, right? Oh, he's a comedian. Yeah, he is a comedian, but somehow he knew all money wasn't good money. Nick Cannon didn't want to realize that. The Migos didn't want to realize that. Oh, because you want to do 500 racks at the stripper bowl. That's what's important. What's important is not signing away your hard, tangible gifts to someone else for a buck. And guess what? The contract made the law on them. Dave Chappelle clearly knew that all money's not good money. And since all money's not good money, he read the contract. He had someone around him say, this contract looks like It infringes on your freedom. What freedom could that be? Hey, you're going to be on tour for X, Y, and Z amount of time. Hey, any derivatives of this name, the show, since we're executive producing it, we're going to go ahead and take it off the air when we feel like it. We can actually end the contract before you can end the contract. And if you end the contract before we do, guess what? You have to pay us a fee because you quit on us. We have future money coming in because of you. And now there's a fee that we're going to associate to you quitting. So guess what? Most of these guys don't quit. Nick didn't quit. You never went back and read the contract, Nick, that you signed away the name? But you didn't quit. Because why? They might have had a contingency clause in there that said if you quit, you owe them money. So if you don't fulfill the contract, you owe money. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we learned in private trustee training from our mentors. That when you're dealing in even in real estate, we'll go with the real estate. We can leave this buffoonery where these guys are literally trying to call out the people that they signed a contract with. Let's go to real estate. So in real estate, when you have a contractor's supposed to do the work. Contractor says, hey, we're going to get the work done in a certain period of time. Okay, when they don't get it done, there's a contract in place that says, now we're charging you because you didn't do your job. Contract makes the law. They want their money when they do the work, but when they go over a few days to a week, to weeks, to a month, doesn't that slow down the cash flow of the property? Yes. Well, whose fault is that? And the injured party deserves remedy. These gentlemen may not even get a remedy. If it is, it's a private settlement. It's a quiet settlement. But for the most part, contract makes the law. They gave up their rights in the contract. Now, this is a question we all have to ask ourselves as we continue to contract out in the public or even in the private. And what is that? That is, did you read the contract? Well, no. It's a bunch of legalese in there. Go hire good attorneys. Bottom line. Want to know what type of attorney you can get? Why not on the front end go get a business litigation attorney? First of all, a real estate transactional attorney is the person that you deal with in real estate. In the business world, you deal with a business litigation attorney. Why don't you want an aggressive business litigation attorney? This is an attorney that's not going to let somebody take your name from you. And if they do, they make sure they put a clause in there that says, if you fire us too early, we get all of the rights to our name back to the contract. We get all derivatives back from the contract. Why? Because you fired us. We're the talent. Oh no, we didn't learn that coming up because we were trying to make a buck. So, that's how it is in the public, ladies and gentlemen. Protect yourselves. Why wouldn't you sign with a restricted signature? If you signed an unconscionable contract, they didn't even restrict their signatures. They just signed their life away. And then go into the public, to the media, where the matter cannot really be resolved. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to know how contract makes the law? You all know about Colin Kaepernick. Do you all know how much money was given to him? No, contract makes the law. That was a private mediation, litigation suit. You want to know why he got a settlement? Because he had good business litigation lawyers. He was suing. He was in the middle of an athletic contract. And he went and got some of the best lawyers. They didn't even go to public court. That's how good his lawyers were. They kept it in private mediation. Most people don't know about this. Why? Because they don't know about contract. And they don't have good lawyers around them. They got their Uncle Joe. Well, guess what? Uncle Joe is dealing with snakes and vultures and savages. Viacom, when they put 3-1 to your lawyers, it's not going to be hard where they can keep coming back with rebuttals on how to amend the contract. See, when you're in a bad contract or in any contract, you can amend the contract. Not only did these individuals initially sign the rights to their music, the rights to their content, the rights to their hard worked, earned labor. They signed this over willingly and knowingly in the beginning. They didn't go back and amend the contract. They kept signing renewals so they can keep doing what they were doing. But what happened? You can have people in place, such as a business litigation lawyer. You want to ask them when you're interviewing them, Are you aggressive? Not everyone's aggressive. You want to make sure that someone's going to go after them and put a big suit on them for stealing from you. If you feel like someone stole from you, you can sue them. Bottom line. Now, if you don't come from a community where you're willing to sue Uncle Joe, it's best to go put big accounting firms and big law firms in place. Because they're not just going to have one lawyer working on your stuff. And then you're working with a firm. These people are trying to make partner. This is the difference, ladies and gentlemen, between having good lawyers, your Uncle Joe, and not reading the contract. This is the message to those parties right there. Contract makes the law. You can't get around it. You can make amendments to contracts. After you signed one that you feel wasn't in your favor, you can always say, hey, look, we need to make an amendment. And if both parties agree, it's amended to the contract. After you made $1 million, why not come back and say, hey, can we amend the contract? No, they didn't do that. They allowed the pillaging of their estate to go on. The estate has intangible value, not just monetary value. It has intangible value. Their talents, those songs, that production of creativity, those are spiritual gifts. Those are intangible gifts. And you can see that intellectual property, you can go to an intellectual property lawyer. You can see that intangible property has literally just been given away because they didn't know that their voice was worth something. The words on a piece of paper with their name is worth something. The actual name is worth something. And the derivatives of those names and images, even your images, these people literally just had their image and likeness stole from them. Because the contract makes the law. You think in the contract it didn't say anything that sounds like Nick Cannon, anything that sounds like Migos, we have rights to. That's how powerful a contract is. Ladies and gentlemen, never sign a contract unrestricted. But for some odd reason, people still will go on signing contracts unrestricted. You all can look up a restricted signature in a Black's Law Dictionary. We look forward to hearing from you all. Christian at Trust Christian for Trustee Training, because this is what we talk about in the private. Not just talk about it, we live it. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't need to put our image on the internet. YouTube doesn't need any more access to the private family estate than it already has. Why? Because it's a partnership. It's a limited partnership. Why didn't these parties say that they signed a limited partnership? You can sign limited partnerships. You give away rights to a thing for a period of time. Sometimes it's limited partnerships. Why didn't they lease their products to these companies? Because they didn't know contract well enough. You could have let them get 98% on the front end. But what happens when they break the contract? Because they know that they really don't have true rights to it. Guess what? They don't break contracts. And you'll get paid when they do. Those parties would have got paid for leasing the property, for a limited partnership, for a general partnership. That's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. It's business, not personal. Appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay. We got to talk about these things. They're easy conversations. We could talk about how when you hear someone's situation going on in the public, it lets you know their contract is public. Is it private? How do you know it's private? You know it's private when you don't hear about it. The public displays are contracts that were done in what people call malfeasance. There's something wrong. There's a defectiveness in the contract. Not in your favor. You got to have that Black's Law Dictionary next to you when you're reading the contract. You think Dave Chappelle didn't? You think Dame Dash didn't? Dame Dash went to boarding school. Of course he got some of the best lawyers around him. They didn't sign away their rights to Rockefeller. They did a partnership deal. Oh, just because you're an artist, you have to sign away all your rights to your sound, to your name, to your image, your semblance and likeness? No, you don't. But when you're chasing after a buck, all money's not good money. Appreciate you all for tuning in live, listen to replay. Feel free to reach out Christian at Trust Christian if you want to enroll in Trustee Training. Otherwise, feel free to go back through the episodes. Do our best to add value as much as we can. If you all want to type into the chat where you're listening from, know this is a pretty late episode around the world, just a pop-up episode, and happy that we could do it. Nick Cannon and Migos contract makes the law. Appreciate you all for tuning in live, listen to replay. Peace.